Hello again. Welcome back to Little K Artistry. I am Little K, the artist also known as Kristen, and I want to welcome you if you're new to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. I'm not sure how you found my channel, but I'm so glad that you did. I thank you for subscribing if you haven't yet. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for coming back to watch another video. So grateful for you, and I'm so glad that you are here. Today I am recreating one of my favorite blue and white blooms. And this is a Dutch style bloom, but it is not a true Dutch bloom because I am going to be using a foundation layer of my PPG Multi Pro, and I'm going to be using the heavy fluid acrylics instead of the real thin ones like in a true Dutch pour. So it's a Dutch style pour. But I'm recreating one of my blue and white flowers. I have a special request for a blue and white flower on a pale blue background. So I'm going to be doing it on a white background, and then I'm going to be painting the white background once the flower is dry. So let's go ahead and get started, and I will hopefully be able to recreate this beautiful flower. And the request was for a 20-inch canvas, and this is a deep edge, also known as gallery wrapped. So I'm going to go ahead and unwrap this for you. And we'll get started. Take a little plastic off. These are really beautiful canvases. And this is a really special piece. All of my pieces that I do that are special requests are special to me because I know how much you all work for your hard-earned money, and I appreciate so much when I get a commission and a special request to do something, and it's just such an honor that you all want my art hanging on your walls in your homes and in your businesses. So I am going to go ahead and get started with this one, and like I said, this is a base layer, my foundation layer of the PPG Multi Pro, and this is just in white. Actually, I think it's an eggshell. But I will be going through once this is dry, and I will be painting the background in a pale blue per the request of my client. And I'm just going to walk you through the colors that I'm using. My pouring medium is the pouring medium for my abstract cellism. And the link to that is down below in the description. All I'm doing now is just stretching out my foundation a little bit more so that it covers, I want it to cover at least 2/3 to 3/4 of my canvas. That way when I get ready to spin it, I can actually stretch the composition. And I have had some questions about why I use the foundation of the PPG Multi Pro, and so far it is the best one that I've found. It's thin enough so that it stretches really well, but also I've found so far, knock on wood, I have not had any that have had a lot of bubbles in them. And you don't want bubbles in your base layer because you don't want cells to pop up where you don't want them. And typically everywhere there's a bubble in your base layer, you will usually get a cell. And if your base layer is white, then you'll get white cells popping up through. And if your painting doesn't have a lot of white in it, then it might not look quite right. All right, so I am starting with Prussian blue. And this is this is a, I think this is an Amsterdam Prussian blue. So I'm just going to put a nice sized puddle of the Prussian blue somewhat near the center. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered. I find sometimes it's a little more interesting for the composition if it's off center a little bit. And there's my Prussian blue. And then I'm going to follow that with a phthalo blue. And this phthalo blue is the green shade. And then I am going to follow that with another of my favorite blues. And this is Windsor Blue. And then around the outside of those colors, I am going to circle with a turquoise blue. This is also in Amsterdam. There we go. And this is my top layer. And this is a mixture of a couple of different golds. I have a gold pigment that I use, and I also have Amsterdam's deep gold, and I'm also using Lucas gold. So this is a combination of equal parts Lucas and Amsterdam, and then I also put in a gold pigment. And I don't have the name of it right off the top of my head. I will tell you, it is not Harvest Gold by This Little Piggy. I usually use Harvest Gold, and I had run out. So this is not Harvest Gold by This Little Piggy. I hope it still works, and it ends up making some good cells in the center of this flower. I think it will. It's making a nice halo. That's a good sign. That means the thickness of and the viscosity of the paint is correct. I'm just going to wrap this a little bit. It's wrapped around another cord. Okay, here we go. Going for 5 petals. So I think what I will do is, since it's kind of leaning a little bit this way, I'm going to do the 2 petals this way, and then I'll do 3 over here. And this request was for a double Dutch bloom, so that is why there's 2 layers. And I'm going to go ahead and just separate the petals a little bit here. I don't like to go too far in. I like to keep the center really intact, because that's where I think a lot of the beautiful part of the painting ends up, right in the center with all those beautiful cells. And then I am going to do a little bit with the petals, just to make them a little more interesting before I stretch it out. And you definitely don't have to do this part if you don't want to. I just think it adds a little bit more, just a touch of something real special. And just like a flower in nature, they're all different. So I like to see if I can make things look very unique. And this is where you can do that. This is where you can make your piece really stand out. Just by adding a little bit of special attention in just a few spots. Do be careful when if you're using a dotting tool like I am, when you pull through the foundation paint, it does tend to be real stretchy and it will leave a trail or a string. So when you lift it up, just make sure you go really slowly so you don't drag that string of white through your painting. Okay, I am going to just extend this base layer a little bit here, especially in the corners. This part won't have any trouble spinning off, but the corners sometimes, if you've done this style of art before, you'll know sometimes the corners, you really struggle to get the paint all the way to the corners, so that's why I just stretch it out like this beforehand. That way, I know for sure, once I get my composition with the flower the way I want it, I don't have to keep spinning to get my corners painted. Sometimes you don't want to stretch out your composition anymore. So if you stretch the base layer, the foundation layer this way, then you don't have to worry about overstretching your composition. Because remember, your base layer, it is the background of your painting, but it's also, like the name suggests, it's just the foundation upon which you draw or paint your composition, which is your flower. Now sometimes I am able to tip this just a tiny bit before I stretch it. See if I can get that center. There we go. I want it to look like the flower is pointing in a certain direction. And sometimes by tipping it, let's see, you can get it to do that. Okay, I'm going to spin this a little bit just to see what we've got here. Oops. Okay, spin just a little, stretch it just a tiny bit. That's looking beautiful. Okay, so it looks like the natural look of this flower is, this is kind of the bottom, so the flower is sort of tipped on the canvas. I don't want it to look like it's flat, I want it to look like it's tipped. So these are the front petals, if you will, so they're a little bit shorter, and those are the background petals. And that's exactly how I wanted it to look. So I'm going to spin it just a little bit more like this. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to spin it a little bit harder. I'm going to off-center it a little bit. Spin a little more. go. Okay, I'm going to pull it a little bit more this way because these two need to stretch a little more. Very good. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit of my foundation layer and just put it around where the foundation layer is lighter, not quite as much of it. And that will help the composition to pull off a little bit. Always remember too, when you're doing this part, do not drag your palette knife across your painting. Ask me how I know. Yes, I've done that. And you end up with a line of white paint through your flower. You don't want that to happen. Or maybe you do. Every time that's happened to me, I have not wanted that to happen. Okay, so I'm going to spin this a little more. Okay, that is beautiful. And a little bit more of this over here. And you can tell as you're spinning because you can see where the paint is thinner because it looks a little bit lower. The depth of the paint is a little bit lower on the canvas, so you can tell. I've had students ask me, why don't you just pour more out of your container? And the answer to that is I do sometimes when there isn't enough to scrape, but I try not to waste my resources. And I try to teach others not to waste their resources. Okay, now, oops, I dropped that on the floor. Now, for me, this is looking a little bit lopsided, so I'm going to tip it. I'm going to have it go this way a little bit. And then always, always, before you start spinning, make 100% sure that you're not going to spin into anything. Move everything out of the way. Again, ask me how I know. I made all the mistakes. I'm going to spin this a little bit just to see if I can get this one petal to stretch out a little more. Okay, so it is definitely stretching out on that corner. I want to stretch a little more. So I'm going to spin just a tiny bit more, but I think what I want to do, I want both of these to go a little more. So I am going to scoot this like that, so that hopefully both of those petals will get some length. Better. Excellent. So these two are off. I'm spin one more for a little bit just to see if I can get these two to come off a little bit more, just so that it's a little more even. If not, I might end up tweaking those other petals a tiny bit. You can see how that's they're getting really close to the edge now. And then I have the others that are going actually off the edge, which is fine. So it's the weight of that foundation paint that's pulling the composition off the edges. That's lovely. Okay, let me see what I want to do here. Beautiful. That is beautiful. Oh, okay, I'm going to spin one more just to get those two off a little bit more off the edge. Better. Okay, that is better. All right, so now I am going to scrape. I might end up tweaking this one petal on this side. I don't know yet. Let's scoot this off just so that I can recenter this canvas. I want to be able to get it back in the middle so I can look at it. Get the full effect, as it were. Okay, now let's see what we've got here. This is super pretty. Now I was going to tweak this this petal, but I really like what's going on with the pretty cells. So I don't know if I want to tweak these now. No, I don't think I do. I think I want to leave it. Yeah. I do. I'm going to leave it just like that. So the composition is the way you're seeing it. So this will be the top. And then when it's all dry, I will come in and do a light blue with the background. All right, I'll bring you in for a close-up and I'll show you what's going on in these beautiful cells in the middle. There we go. Had to get rid of that pesky window reflection. And now you can see the double Dutch and that beautiful golden center with all the cells. And I just love these colors together. Again, you guys, I will list out the colors. We started with Prussian blue, and then I went with the phthalo blue, which was the green shade. And then I did the Windsor blue, and then we did a turquoise blue, and then I had that custom gold in the middle, which was equal parts of Lucas gold, and then the Amsterdam deep gold, and then I did use a gold pigment in there as well. And the links to my pouring mediums are all down in the description. And there you have it. And I will come back and show you when I have it all completely done. This is the fluid part. Loving this. Thank you again so much, you guys, for joining me. I appreciate you being here in my studio with me. Can't even tell you how much I love you guys. Thank you for all the support and encouragement and prayers and love and thoughts and well wishes. Thank you so much. You all are wonderful. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to your comments. And I hope you have a beautiful day. This is Little Kay, and I am reminding you and encouraging you, and I'm inviting you to, once again, go make the art. You will be so glad you did.